So today I want to talk with you about being prepared. Now, I mentioned earlier that we had our very first snow here in Maine, and although it's not a lot of snow, it's something new to me, something that I will need to learn how to deal with as well as my family. And it got me thinking about this morning as I woke up to quite a bit of snow on the ground. Again, relative to me, probably not relative to Mainers. What I have done as far as being prepared and maybe what I even failed to do. And I think it's very, very important that we talk about being prepared, that we talk about our role as providers and presiders and protectors of ourselves and our families and those that we have a responsibility for. And I have seen so many men who have failed to prepare adequately in their life. And I titled this Prepare or Die. Quite literally, it could be death. Or it could just represent a very serious and grave concern or threat to your own well-being or the well-being of those you have a responsibility for. So it is our responsibility. It is important that we prepare and anticipate what's going to come up and be ready for those things as they do. Whether you're talking about battle, as I did in the military, whether you're talking about going out into the workforce and trying to get new clients, whether you're talking about your finances. In a previous life, I was a financial advisor. I was pre-beard and pre-order of man. I had to talk with people about being prepared all the time, prepared for retirement, prepared for unforeseen events that might pose a risk to their finances and well-being. It could also be being prepared for potential medical conditions and problems that come up in your physical health. Basically, any aspect of your life where something could go wrong, which is everywhere, it's your responsibility to be prepared for those events and those potential threats that could expose some vulnerability in your plan and your approach to life. And again, those you have a responsibility for. So what I've done is I've listed out 5 different ideas and 5 different ways, as I do most Friday Field Notes, how you can be more prepared and how you can avoid some catastrophic event or some dangerous situation, or at least putting yourself in a place of vulnerability, which although is quite the buzzword these days, we don't want to expose vulnerabilities. We want to recognize them, and I'm actually going to talk with you about that today, only so we can feel them, only so we can shore up those weaknesses. And that's what being prepared is all about. It's about acknowledging your shortcomings, your weaknesses, the areas of potential threat, and then resolving them so that you can live a more fulfilling, more sustainable, more fulfilled life for yourself and those under your care. So I'll jump right into the 5 points that I had for you today, and hopefully this will make some sense, and hopefully you'll take these 5 ideas into your life and be more prepared in regards to what you can do to protect yourself and others. So the first one is accepting your role. Now, I've talked about this at length, that it's a man's job to be a protector, a provider, and a presider. It's very, very important that we acknowledge and accept that as our role, because if we don't, and we anticipate or hope that somebody else will do it for us, we put ourselves in an inferior position. It's never a good idea, and it's not even a strategy to hope and pray that things are going to work out the way that you would like them to. If we don't accept that responsibility, if we don't realize that it is our job to do these things, then we are going to find ourselves in a position that's less advantageous and, of course, potentially dangerous and catastrophic to our own well-being. So I realize that there's a lot of guys out there who don't fully want to accept responsibility because there's a lot of reasons. I think a lot of guys have been led to believe just in modern society that somehow they have been mocked and dismissed and ridiculed, and they're tired of that to a degree, and so they've decided to disengage altogether. That's not a healthy approach to life. It's definitely not an approach that's going to be fulfilling or rewarding or profitable for you. And I think it's an immature way to look at things. Just because somebody may not appreciate entirely what it is you're doing doesn't mean that you get to absolve yourself of the responsibility of doing it. Now you have to make decisions in your life, and you have to decide what's worth fighting for and what battles you're going to engage in, which we've talked about at length. But ultimately, you're going to be better off when you fully embrace that you have been biologically designed, not societally constructed, but biologically designed to protect yourself, your loved ones, your family, your friends, and those who are unable to protect themselves, that you have been biologically designed and hardwired to provide, not only financially, but provide the resources, the raw resources that you and your family and community members need to thrive and to preside, to lead effectively. And the skill sets that you have, the masculine characteristics and traits like strength and grit and emotional maturity and mental fortitude, your ability to be decisive, your ability to take risks inherent as being a man are a great qualifier for you presiding, for you leading. And the sooner that we accept that, the sooner we embrace that, the more fully that we attempt to step into those roles, the more fulfilled you're going to be. And ultimately, you're going to realize that it is your responsibility and it is your job to be prepared for financial challenges, health challenges, challenges that may come up in the family, physical threats or altercations. For me, when it comes to being here in Maine, the level of snow I know that we're going to get is being prepared for the winter and what threats that poses to me and my family's safety. So I have fully accepted that role. Now, my family has a part to play. My wife certainly has some responsibility in this, but ultimately the buck stops with me. And I feel like if I recognize that, I acknowledge that, I embrace that, then we're going to be more adequately prepared. Number 2 is just realizing and anticipating that adversity is going to come up, that there are going to be challenges and that you can't fully escape them. You can't fully recognize or identify what those things are going to be ahead of time either, but if you acknowledge that adversity is going to happen, you acknowledge that there is going to be trials and challenges, and you try to anticipate what those things actually might be, then you set yourself up in a better position to deal with the things that may actually come up. So I've been dealing with getting the heating system up and running in our house. I've been dealing with just in case the power goes out, and it has been known to go out around here, that we have a backup generator so our power stays on and we can continue to get heat and water in the house. Anticipating the fact that I'm going to have to shovel off the driveways, not only with a hand shovel, but either a snowblower or a tractor or a plow, which I have invested in because I realize those are potential threats. I know a lot of guys are hesitant to invest in making sure they're prepared, whether it's the tools like I just shared with you because you're in a situation where it may snow and you need to protect yourself that way, or food storage, or investing for retirement in the future. They're worried about investing those assets because they don't think that they'll ever need to address them, or that they're invincible, that they don't have to worry about taking care of their health or even insurance because they're never going to get sick or injured or hurt. And of course, we know that this is an asinine thought, but we have this weird thing, and I think it's innately in men, maybe more generally in men, that we're invincible and we overestimate our abilities to keep ourselves and others safe. Did a great podcast earlier in the week with James Yeager, and the quote that I used for the title of the podcast was, "We don't rise to the level of our expectations, we fall to the level of our training." Well, we also fall to the level of our preparation. And if you're not prepared for that rainy day, then you're going to find yourself in a bad situation, and hopefully somebody else will be around to help you, to save you, to rescue you. But do you want to rely on that? Of course you don't. So start thinking about, in your environment, what situations may come up. And as you begin to anticipate these, you're naturally and inevitably going to start working plans in place to keep yourself from being in that position of wanting when the day of reckoning comes. The third component, and I think this will help us more fully anticipate the adversity that's going to come up, is that you have to recognize or acknowledge authority. All right, there are authorities on the subject of the issues that you're going to be dealing with, whether it's financially related, whether it's health related, whether it's environmentally related, like we're dealing with the snow here. There are authorities. There are people who have gone through this before. There are people who are experts in the subject. And sometimes we as men don't want to look to those experts because we think that that may pose a risk to our fragile ego. Well, the greater risk is not to our ego. The greater risk is that adversity that we're potentially going to face if we don't acknowledge that there are authorities on the subject. So when somebody who's an authority speaks to you about improving your situation, keeping yourself protected and safe, and those that you have an obligation for, you probably ought to be quiet and listen. Acknowledge that authority, recognize it, do what that authority says, and you're going to put yourself in a better position. Again, we have this tendency of overestimating our own abilities or underestimating what might actually happen to us. And because we do that, we have a false sense of expectations around what could potentially happen to us. So we have to learn as men to drop the ego, drop the arrogance, drop the desire to be right all the time and to know everything, and recognize that there's other people who know more about you and I about subjects than we do. And it's okay that we acknowledge those people. In fact, the more that we acknowledge those people, the more that we position ourselves for winning, for success, for thriving and overcoming the dangers that we will inevitably face as humans. So what I would challenge you to do when it comes to this is look around in your own life and try to figure out where there's some weaknesses and who are the authorities regarding those weaknesses that you could reach out to. Who in your circle could help you with the physical environment? Who in your circle can help you with your finances? Who in your circle is the healthiest individual who will help you maintain or stay on track or get your health back in order? Who are these people? These are the individuals that you need to have in your inner circle. And I've got all of these checked off because I recognize that there's people who know more than I do. I want to put myself in the best position. We don't know what we don't know. And unless you're surrounding yourself with people who do know, you're going to find yourself in a bad way. Acknowledge authority. Number 4, don't waste time. I mean, when the sun is shining, it's easy to think that everything's good and everything's wonderful and nothing's ever going to happen and we can coast and we can rest and we can take it easy. And if you do that, then you have all of this time, which is a finite resource. You have all of this time that you have frittered away, that you've completely wasted. And that time could have been used to protect yourself, to build up reserves, to save and invest money, to be exercising, to eat right, to invest in the equipment that you need to keep yourself and your family safe. Don't waste time. The best thing I've done with regards to not wasting time is that I have, and I've showed you guys this before in some of the videos, is I have these field notes that I keep everywhere, and I've got over on this other desk my battle planner. Every single day, without fail, and every single afternoon, I'm going through that battle planner and I'm looking at what needs to be done. I'm looking at the priority of things. I'm looking at what my biggest accomplishments for the day will be. I'm going through at the end of the day and recapping and seeing where I fell short, seeing what I got done, seeing what I didn't get done so that I can be more effective the next day. Having a plan in place will help you to be more efficient and know exactly what needs to be done. Sometimes men who seem to waste more time than others, it's because they don't have a plan. They have no strategy or system in place. And sometimes they don't even know what they need to do because they've got all these ideas and things that need to get done bouncing around their brain, but they never crystallize it by writing it down in a plan. And then when they don't know what to do, they kind of think around and dink around and waste time when all they really had to do was, if they would have done some planning, is look in their list and say, okay, now this is next, this is next, this is next, this is next. And not only is it going to help you be more prepared for these inevitable, if I can say that, inevitable life experiences, but you're just going to feel better about yourself. You're going to be more rewarded and more fulfilled, and ultimately you're going to develop more confidence. One of the biggest questions I get from the guys inside of the Facebook group and Iron Council is how they can build and develop confidence. Well, do things with your life that you'd be confident about. If you're wasting more time than you need, you're not going to be confident about that. And why should you be? You shouldn't. You shouldn't be satisfied with wasting time. So if you feel like you're down or you don't have this level of confidence, maybe you're just killing too much time. Maybe you don't have a plan or a purpose or a direction or a focus or clarity on what needs to be done. So eliminate the wasting of time by having a plan, crystallizing what needs to be done, documenting it, working the plan, reviewing the plan, and then doing it over and over and over again every single day. That's how you avoid wasting time. And the fifth component that I would share with you today is to kill procrastination. All right, we have a tendency, of course, some more than others, to procrastinate, to put things off, to think that we have more time than we really do. I thought about my life at age 38, and I think about my kids who are 11, 9, 6, and 3. And in it, you think you have so much time, but then looking back, it's amazing how quickly it goes. I mean, my 11-year-old, 11 years is really, really strange to think about. I've been married for 15 years. We've been together for 17. I mean, we're almost 20 years. I've been out of high school for 20 years. Time flies and goes so fast, and we have less time than we think. And when we procrastinate and put things off and believe that we have time to do it tomorrow or the next day, what happens is we get caught with our pants down. We get surprised. We get caught off guard. And of course, that's at direct odds with our ability to protect, provide, preside, to be the men that we're capable of becoming. So a lot of guys ask, how do you get rid of procrastination? How do you kill that? How do you limit procrastination? Again, it comes back down to having a plan. If you have a plan in place and you know what you need to do, you're going to be less likely to procrastinate. And also, if you're excited about what you're doing, if you found meaning and purpose in what you're doing, if you aren't excited about it, you aren't hopped up on it, yeah, I mean, of course, you're not gonna be engaged and anxious to do it. And of course, there's days where I feel like, maybe I don't want to podcast, or I don't want to send out emails or do a social media post or any number of things that I need to do on a daily basis. But I see my tasks, even the things that may be menial or seemingly insignificant, I see it in the grand scheme of things, which is ultimately, for me, being the most capable husband, father, community leader of my business, friend, mentor, just man in general that I can be. And because I can see all of the activities I do on a daily basis in the framework of the greater man that I want to become, I am motivated. I am excited. And I have the discipline to go through and commit and follow through on the things that I said I would do. So that's it, guys. We can't not be prepared. And we can't hope and pray. That's not a plan. And we can't rely on other people to do it. Although there may be somebody there who is willing to do it, who may rescue you if you find yourself in a bad situation, it's not a great strategy. In fact, it's an inferior strategy. And it's one that will expose you and the people you love to all kinds of financial, physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual threat. And your job is to be the sentinel, to be the protector, the guardian against those threats, to keep your family safe. There's a quote, and I'm going to butcher it, but he says, "The real man gains renown by standing between the blows of fate and destruction with equanimity." I butchered that, I know. You can look it up because it's a great quote. And that's your job. Your job is to stand between the blows of fate and ultimate destruction for your family and the people you care about with equanimity, which is confidence, clarity, focus, boldness, courage. And all of those things can be fostered through these 5 steps when it comes to preparing yourself, your family, your loved ones, and those who are incapable of fending for themselves. Again, as a recap, number 1, accept your role as the protector, the provider, the presider. Number 2 is to anticipate the adversities that are going to come up. Recognize what they are. Think about what they may be ahead of time so you can prepare yourself. Number 3 is to acknowledge that there is authority on these subjects. Recognize the authority. Do what the authority says so that you can position yourself in a better spot. Number 4, do not waste time. Have a plan. Make a battle plan or a daily plan, whatever tool you want to use, and don't waste that time. And number 5 is kill that level of procrastination that all of us have a tendency of falling into. Recognize that now's the time. There's no better time than doing it right now. And even if it's something you don't want to do, I get it. Do it anyways because it's important, because that's what's required of you as a man. Anyways, guys, I hope that helps. Please connect with me. Let me know what you're doing in your own life to keep yourself prepared. Let me know how you're preparing yourself. Let me know how you're implementing these 5 steps in order to be more prepared. Share this stuff on Facebook and YouTube and Instagram and Twitter. Right now, I'm very, very active on YouTube. Obviously, the video's there, so you can head to youtube.com/Order of Man. And I'm also hyperactive on both Twitter and Instagram, which can both be found at Ryan Michler. My last name is spelled Michler. So I'll go ahead and leave you there for the weekend. Have a great weekend. Remember, it is your responsibility to protect, provide, preside, and ultimately to prepare for the things that may come up. We'll be back on Tuesday for another great interview, so make sure you subscribe to the show, subscribe to YouTube, connect with me on Twitter and Instagram, and just want to thank you for being in this battle to reclaim and restore masculinity. We need it now more than ever, and please enlist yourself and other men into this battle. All right, guys, get out there, take action, become the man you are meant to be.